So rigging this character is going to require a reasonable amount of screen real estate, and if you're working on your own computer with more than one screen, some of these menus that I'm going to have to jump in and out of, maybe it's better to tear them off. But I will show you, I have my node view here, and so I'm going to, and if you don't have your node view, again, remember you can always hit plus and add specific menus in any area you want. You can even have duplicates of them. But I'm going to drag my node view out of here until it's floating, and then I'm going to grab it again and I'm going to attach it right here so I get this side-by-side node view. And what that's going to allow me to do is just have a little bit more area that I can see in here. So I'm going to sort all of this out where we can see it a little bit. If I drag select all of my nodes and I click this button, hit OK, it will sort them out in a way that's a little easier to see. Again, middle mouse click will let you move around, scroll will let you zoom in and out. So we've talked a little bit about basic hierarchy stuff. And so what I really need to do first is make sure I have some pivot points for everything where I want them to be. So let's go ahead and spend a minute and put all those pivot points in the right place. Actually, before I do pivot points, I'm probably going to do pegs on everything. So my alien body needs a peg. I'm going to select it, Control P. So there's the peg. And now if I go to my move tool, I can put this wherever I want to. Now be careful, if I click out here and move, it moves the body. If I click this little blue dot in the middle, it moves the pivot point. And so I'm just going to go ahead and put my body's pivot point here just for right now. And again, what that means is now I can rotate that, right? Move that out to the side, and I'm just going to do this with all of these. Control P, get my pivot points where I want it to be. This is the eye white. So I want this to be pretty close to the very center of the eye. Right? There we go. Iris, do the same thing there. Again, very close to the center of the eye. Because the point of this is we're going to want to animate this eye looking around. Right? Again, all of these, I'm going to kind of organize them just a little bit. Top lid and bottom lid are over here. Put the antenna up here. So let's go ahead and do the two antennas. Control P. I'm going to put this at the base of it. Control P. Top lid. I'm going to put that. Oh, sorry. Control P. I'm going to put that here. That's what I'm like there. And then Control P. Put that one more like that. Right. So that gives us the ability to animate these doing this. Okay. As you are probably aware and remember from our previous videos, right? If I want these things to follow, right? So for example, if I want to move my ant body and I want that eye and antenna to go with me, that's what this green arrow coming out of the body or bottom of these do, right? So if I drag that into the top of eye white, when I move my alien's body, the eye white will go with it, right? And I can do that all the way down through here. But I want to think about this a little bit. If I move my entire eye white, I want my iris to go with it, right? So not just with the body. So that means now if I'm moving my eye white, I'm kind of moving my entire eye, right? And I believe that that's how I want to structure that, but I may change some of that later. The lids, I definitely want to go with the body as well. And then the antenna, I want to go with the body. Right, and so now what I have is this body peg that should, whenever I move the body, it should go with us everywhere. Right. So that's how hierarchy works. And what you'll also see is whenever I move the eye, it can do stuff, or and then the antenna can do stuff on its own. So that would allow us to move the entire thing. So just letting you know, this is how this works. This is why a hierarchy works this way. I'm going to separate out some of these again, just because now that we know that that's how it works, there may be some slightly different solutions we do with this. Because we have our eye doing some pretty cool things, right? I move my eye white, and that iris goes with it, and then I move my iris, and I can look around with it, right? And so that's working pretty well. I can move my eyelids up and down, right, to get me some blinks and changes, right? But they're a little stiff looking, right? But right now our body can't really do much of anything, right? It's pretty, like, all I can do with it is just move it, right? And that's going to be boring. Like, that's a boring animation. So let's start with some deformers. And we're going to use the body just to talk about what those deformers do. I'm going to just temporarily minimize some of these other things and turn them off, just so we can talk about how the body works, right? Or how this is going to work on the body. So what I want to deform is this body drawing, right? So I'm going to grab it first. And all of our deformation tools are under this little hammer and wrench tool. And they're called rigging tools in here. So let's go ahead and click on that. And you'll see it opens up over here in our tools properties some options for us. So what I want you to understand is that these are not magic bullets, right? These are not, I click one button and it does exactly the right thing, right? We are trying to manipulate or deform sometimes some really complex drawings. And this is just ways of kind of warping those in different ways. And so I'm going to show you how they work, and there's not a one-size-fits-all. Like, if your alien is much more jagged lines than mine, then you may end up with a different result that doesn't look as good or looks different, and maybe a different deformer works better for you. So let's just talk about how each of them work really quickly. So the first one, it's set to automatic mode, and usually automatic mode is going to choose this first one, this bone and articulation mode. So let's just go ahead and click it to do that. And what it is it's going to work a little bit more like bones do in Maya, which we haven't really learned yet, but bear with me. So if I click a point, I'm just creating like this little hierarchy chain, right? And you'll see by the time I click the third one, I get this radius here for this middle one, right? So I want to undo that just so we can see the basics of how this works. So I'm still in rigging mode, and I can manipulate this and sort of put this wherever I need it, right? And it's not going to change my object any. Whenever I'm ready to test this out to see how it works, I need to go to this tool right here, which is our transform tool. So it's a little confusing because this tool does something very similar to what this tool does, but not exactly the same. And so this transform, these kind of only animate objects. This allows you to move anything, including these rigging elements. And so now when we're in this rigging element, I can start to warp my drawing back and forth with these tools, right? Now, you'll notice over here, in between my peg and my alien body, it put this new object in here. It's deformation alien body. And if I click on that, it's just one thing, and there's not really a lot of layer properties under here about it. It's because this is a group that has a whole bunch of things underneath it. And if I click into this arrow here, you'll see that it's a hierarchy of bone and bone 1, and then this multi-point out, which is really this end tip here, right? Because really this is just two sticks, right, with a softness in between. Now this softness in between can be used to kind of soften or kind of change that deformation in the middle. And if I were to go back to my rigging area here, I can make that, like, let's look at it without it, see how like this is scrunching here. But if I go back in, I can make it bigger before, like while in rigging mode. And I'm going to get a little bit of a different deformation in there now. So that's what that roundness is for. And we can sort of soften that and sort of change little bits of that. And all of those things that we're editing are actually on these two bones that are hidden in this group. Whenever I want to go back out, I just click this up arrow, and so I'm back here. So that's the bone deformation, or bone deformer. I'm going to select that and actually just hit delete and get rid of it. So we're back to where we were. I'm going to create another deformer just to show you. So, and again, I just made 2 bones there, but you can make as many as you want. You can have a hierarchy of 50 if you want to. It is not really advised. Like, it doesn't really help to have more all the time. But anywhere where you need it to bend, that's where you would use that. So if I go ahead and click the rigging tool again and go back to my tools property, The second one, this one's actually one of my favorites. It's the curve mode, and it works a little bit differently. This is going to work a little bit more like a Bezier handle does in like Photoshop or Illustrator. And what I do is I click and drag, right? And I'm going to drag toward where I'm going, right? Just drag toward there. And then when I click on the second, I'm going to drag from where I've been. And all of the rest of them I'm going to drag from where I've been, right? I want to aim it at where I just came from. Right. And that's going to create this Bezier handle here, right? And if I go back to this top one, I'm going to drag back toward the second one. Right? And this gives me basically these 3 Bezier handles that I can adjust however I need to. When I go to my transform tools, that's how this is going to be animated too. I can grab this point and move it, and I can sort of warp this around. And it's just a way of warping this object, right? And you'll see kind of why I like it is it gives me a lot of ability to adjust quite a bit on this, right? And I believe this is probably where the one I'm going to end up using, but I want to show you how the rest of them work anyway. So again, I can just delete that. Go back to this rigging tools, alien body. So this one is an envelope mode. And this is really good if you're needing to just change the shape of something, right? Let's say you're needing a character's muscle to change shape, or you're needing to be able to really like warp some jello or something like that, right? And that might be how you want to animate this character, is like a complete like reshaping of them. And really what we're going to do is you create them very similar to how you did the curve tool, except we're going to create a perimeter around our character. Right, we're going to make like a literal like an envelope around them. Actually, let's do that one more like here, back this way. Okay. Again, I'm dragging back toward the previous one, and so since I have this one now, I can actually hold Alt and sort of break that tangent handle. So I'm kind of just drawing this shape around my character and adjusting it as I go. Oh goodness. Take that one out. I have to go back and edit some of these here. It's not a big deal. There we go. The next one I have is here. And then I'll go ahead and end it here. Now I'm going to go back through here and sort of reshape these to where they're doing what I want. Alt to sort of break this and get that where I want it. Scale this down a little bit, and then adjust this one to be a little bit more rounded on both ends. So I've made this like perimeter all the way around my character, and if I go to my edit tool, what this lets me do is kind of warp the entire character shape. But it's not going to work like the bone tool did, right? If I needed it to bend at the neck, that's actually kind of hard to get with this, right? I would have to kind of grab all of these points and sort of warp it down to here to even get anything close. Now, what I want you to look at is sometimes the line art is going to also have some issues in it, right? It's going to get some weird warping in it or stretching. You've probably already seen some of that. But this is a really nice tool to where I can animate these pretty broad deformations on things. Again, delete that. Alien body, go back to the rigging tools. So there's a couple others out here, and they're more like specific use cases. This one is kind of one of the newest ones. It's a shape-aware deformation. We'll talk about these two next, but we're going to kind of skip this one. So this one is going to work more like a hierarchy system, similar to how the bone tools did. Why this one is different is because this is used primarily for games, right? What this is going to allow you to do is export out your character in a way that a game engine would recognize how it is rigged, and then you could utilize that rigging within the game, right? So for example, if you wanted the character's head to follow wherever your mouse is pointing, right? It would take infinite number of animations to be able to do that smoothly. Instead, you could just have a game bone for the character's head, and then inside of Unity or Game Maker, you could tell Game Maker to have that game bone follow the mouse, right? So that's what this is. Let's not worry about it too much right now. These other two, these are, I guess these are more like almost like smudge tools. I guess like if we take this one and I click, you realize they're just like these sort of standalone points, and they don't really. I guess it probably works better with mainly just two. They don't really help a lot, right? They just do like this, right? And I guess that's cool, but that's not necessarily what I need. I can warp the character a little bit like this. And I'm not saying it's never the case that you would need this, but this is not something I use very often. And the last one is this tool here, which is kind of like an attempt to be multiple types of deformers at once. And you're welcome to use it, but let's say, let's try it. I'm not even for sure what this does exactly. Let's see it. Yeah, it's kind of almost more like these warp tools, but you're seeing I'm getting a lot more stuff here. And it's honestly probably because I'm not using it correctly, but I don't see a lot of reasons, at least in this project, for us to need to use these. So again, I am going to delete that deformer, and I'm going to go back to the one that I like the most for this particular case, which is going to be my curve tool. And I'm going to click here again at the bottom, drag up. Now I would say the two I would consider using is either the curve tool or the bone tool. Those two are going to give you some pretty good results. And there we go. Let's try that. I'll actually stretch these two out a little bit more to give us a little bit more range to deform. And so now when I go back to my move tool, I am able to get quite a bit of cool stuff out of this and get the character in some pretty neat poses, right? Now you'll see here a little bit where I said it's going to sometimes mess up your line art. You can see how I'm getting something here. So I'm just going to try to not do too much of that. So again, it's not going to allow you to do anything you want to do, but it will allow you to do some of those things. So here's the next thing that we want to talk about is how to make this continue to deform some of the rest of these elements and how to start building this hierarchy in other ways. So to show you what I'm talking about, I have this nice deformer on the body, but even though we've parented that eye in, the eye is not going with it. So let's talk about how to make that work in this next video.